In this video, we'll create an HTML and CSS website from scratch in 20 minutes. So let's take a look at it here before we get started. At the top, we have our title or logo, and then underneath that, we have our navigation here, followed by the left section of the website here, where we have some titles and paragraphs, along with an image here that spans the full section, and then this image towards the bottom that's on the right hand side of the left section. Then on the right hand side, we have this right hand side column where we have follow me social media links that we're going to add, as well as a footer section at the bottom where it says contact me along with your contact information. So one thing that you'll notice is when we size the website down at 768 pixels, it's going to go from two different columns to a single column website for iPad or tablet widths. And then when we flex the website down a little bit more for cell phone widths, it's going to change once again with our navigation going from a horizontal navigation menu into this vertical navigation menu. Okay, so let's flex it back up here, and then let's take a final look off to the right for how it's going to appear on an iPhone 10, and then we'll get started. So we have our website title, subtitle, our navigation, then our heading sections, paragraphs, images, and then towards the bottom we have the About Me section, followed by the Social Media Follow Me section, and the Contact Me section at the very bottom. So the one thing that we'll need to get started will be the tutorial starter files. So in the description of this video will be a free download for the HTML website tutorial files where you'll see index.html. So we'll need to use a text editor to edit the HTML file to make our website. I'm going to be using the free program called Sublime Text, which works for Mac and Windows computers, which you can get from sublimetext.com, or you can use a simple text editor such as textedit on a Mac and Notepad on a PC. I'm also going to have it open in Google Chrome while we're making the website so we can view it off to the left. Also included in the starter files will be all of the images included, including the social media icons, and then the three pictures here which have the dimensions in them as their file extensions for the images, making it really easy for you to add your own pictures. So if you need to, go ahead and pause the video for a moment so you can download the starter files. And before we get started, I want to take a second to thank the web hosting company that I use called Bluehost for sponsoring this video. If you'd like to get your own .com name and upload your website to the internet, check out the link to Bluehost in the video description. And if you need help uploading your website to the internet, you can email me at help@macintuts.com. Let's take a look at what's already included for us here in index.html. So from the top, we have our doctype HTML, followed by the actual HTML tag for the document. Then we have our head section here, which includes the title of our website, My HTML Website, and then this style section where we'll add our CSS styles after we add our HTML. And already included are the media queries where the website is going to have the style for the tablet width and the mobile width. So underneath the head section, we have the body section here in the HTML document where we have the header section ready for us to fill out, and then we have the navigation section here, followed by the left column section of the page and the right column section. So this is the left column, and then we have the right section over here, starting with the About Me text at the top. Okay, so let's go back up, and we're going to start off in the header section with the heading where it says My Website. So we're going to use a heading 1 tag, which is the largest of the headings in HTML, and then we'll just write My Website. So underneath that we have a paragraph, and as you can see when I refresh in Google Chrome, we have the My Website text. So we have this paragraph subtitle to our website title. So we'll just use a P tag for our paragraph and then write subtitle to My Website. And now if we go and look just beneath that, we have the start of our navigation. So there's our paragraph text. So let's go ahead and enter our navigation links here in nav which is short for navigation in HTML. So here you can do a link to index.html or the home page of your website. I'm just going to leave it as a blank link so it doesn't send us anywhere for now with the hashtag there. And then we'll write home in between the A tag to give us our link there for the navigation. So let's go ahead and add the rest of our navigation links here. So underneath home, we'll add the My Mission navigation link here, and you can change the titles of these as you wish and link them to different pages if you get that far with your website. So then the third one, we have the About Me link, and then for the fourth, we have the Contact Me link. Okay, so once we've written those out, let's go check it out in Google Chrome. And there we have all 4 of our navigation links. Okay, so let's move on beneath that and we'll get started with the left column section of the website. So we're also going to add a div class inside of the left column div ID there, and we're just going to call this div class for divider, so divider class card. And then we can drop down and close out the div tag there. And inside of it, we'll get started with the My Mission heading at the top. So we're going to use the H2 here, heading 2 for the My Mission text. And then underneath that, we're going to use an H4 tag. So as you may know, headings in HTML go from H1 being the largest to H6 being the smallest. And I'm going to save us a little bit of time to paste in the heading 4 title and the paragraph here. You can use dummy text if you want, just do a Google search for dummy text, or you can type it out if you wish. And then beneath that we have our first image, so we'll use the image source tag here, and then we'll reference the image folder, and then 800 by 219.png for the first image here with the dimensions there laid out in the file name. Okay, so if you're wondering how I'm typing these HTML tags in so fast, once they pop up in Sublime Text, all you have to do is press enter, and then it will complete the tag for you. So let's go ahead and do that with the next heading that we have here, which is a heading 3, where it says designing simple and easy to learn websites. So H3, and then beneath that we'll have another paragraph tag for the paragraph text off to the left here, which I'll just copy and paste in here. So P, and then we have our paragraph there, and then after our paragraph in this case, we're going to add the image that's going to float off to the right of it. So we'll use the img src tag here, but we're also going to give it a class. So we'll say img for image class, and then src for source, and then we can close out our image tag there. So the class that we're going to give this is just img-right, which we'll reference later in the CSS so we can push our image off to the right of our paragraph text. And then the image here is img/800 by 533.jpg. Okay, and then once you've typed that in, we can go ahead and refresh in Google Chrome here. There we have our heading, our image, and then the paragraph text displaying after the image because that's the first thing inside of our paragraph tag. So let's move over to the right column section of the website where it starts off with About Me. So just like the left column, we'll start off with the div class card here, and then we'll close out the div. And then beneath that, we'll add the heading for the About Me text, which is a heading 2 in this case. So H2 About Me. And beneath that, we have another image. So image source. And again, we'll reference the img/ for the image folder. And then 800 by 1000.png. So it doesn't matter the image file extension that you use, whether it be a JPEG image or PNG, as long as you reference it properly in the HTML so the image shows up on your website. So after that, we have another paragraph section here. And then if we go and refresh, there we have our About Me heading, the image, and then the paragraph text underneath. And then after that, we have another card section here. As you can see, it's separated by the dark border, or the sort of the light gray border. So we'll use another div class card and close out the div, and inside of that we'll have another heading where it says follow me. So we're going to use a heading 3 in this case, and write follow me. And underneath that, we're going to have our icon section for our social media icons. So we'll create a new divider for that. So div class icons, close out the div, and inside of it we'll have a link for each icon. So we'll use the href tag similar to our navigation links for our icons, and then you can put a link to facebook.com or instagram.com, wherever you want to go here. I'm just going to leave it blank for now. And then we'll use target_blank to send people to a new window when they click on the link, and then inside of here, the link itself will have our social media icon. So this one is img/facebook.png. And then if we go ahead and save and refresh in Google Chrome, there we have our first of the social media icons. So to save us some time, I'm going to go ahead and copy these and paste them, because all we need to do is change the image source to twitter.png, and then we have instagram.png and linkedin.png. And you can obviously change the links if you want to add your own social media pages here. So there we have all of our social media icons, and then the last section of the website will be our footer. So let's go ahead and drop down to our footer section, and we'll start off with the contact me text, which is a heading 2 up here. So H2 contact me, and then underneath that we're going to have H4s for the rest of the headings inside of the footer section. So H4 my name, and then H4, and we're going to use a special email link here. So when people click on the email, it's going to prompt their computer or phone to want to send an email with their preferred email program. So we'll say mail to : and then the email address, and then in between the A tag we'll put the email there, or you can just write the text email me, so when people click on it, it'll prompt them to email you at that same email address. So underneath that we have the phone number and then the street address. So 800 and then all the 888 digits, and then once again H4, and then 100 city road, my city, my state, 00000. Okay, so now if we refresh, there we have all of our HTML content laid out for us. So now we're ready to move up to the style section of our HTML document and get started with our CSS. The first thing that we're going to lay out is a style called box sizing border box. So that's going to make it so the widths that we give our different sections here are really easy to lay out. So we can just give them a simple percentage. So we're going to use the asterisk to reference the HTML document itself, and then we're going to say box sizing : border - box, and then semicolon to end our style there. So the next thing that we'll style will be the body section of the website. So we'll reference that with body, and then open and close your swirly brackets. And then let's change the font family to Arial, which will give us sort of a softer corner look than what we have here. And let's add a little bit of padding to the corners also, so we can get that gray feel off to the sides of our website. So we're going to say padding 10 pixels all around, and then we're going to give it the background color that we're seeing off in the corners. So that's the background color, hex value F1, 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 which is sort of an off-white or light gray. And let's enlarge the font size a bit to 110%. So now if we refresh, we have some padding off to the sides. We have our text a little bit larger, and we see the Arial font family here. Okay, so the next thing that we'll style, it will be our header section. So that's going to be the header tag down here. So we'll just say header, and then open and close our brackets. And we're going to add some padding to give some spacing around the header text there. So we'll say padding 20 pixels all around, and then background white, or hashtag FFF for our hex value, and then we'll say text align center for our heading 1 where it says my website and the subtitle. So there we have them with some padding or spacing around all sides to give them some spacing around them. And then let's enlarge our heading 1 here inside of the header. So header H1, and let's change the font size to 50 pixels. So now if we refresh, there we have the heading looking just like the original. So the next thing that we can drop down to will be our navigation. Okay, so we'll reference that with the nav tag for navigation down here. So NAV, open and close your brackets. And then let's give it its background color, which is going to be sort of a dark gray or light black shade, if there's such a thing as light black, with hex value 333. And then we'll say overflow hidden, so we don't have any navigation items or links flowing outside of our nav. And now let's style our links. So nav A, and let's change the color to white so we can see them rather than the blue or purple link shades. Okay, and then let's get rid of the underline to the link with text decoration none. And let's also give it a little bit of letter spacing to space out the characters with letter spacing 2 pixels. So now our letters and font is looking just like the original, but we need to add some padding. So we'll say padding 14 pixels top bottom, 16 pixels left right to space out our navigation items. So we're seeing the padding on the left and right, but not the top and bottom just yet. So what we'll need to do is say display block, but what that's going to do is it's going to make the padding appear, but it's going to have everything on top of one another. So we'll say float left, and then our navigation items will be back in line like the original. Okay, so that's looking pretty good, except for we don't have the hover colors yet to our navigation. So let's go ahead and drop down, and we'll reference the same nav A for our links, but we're going to say nav A : hover for when we hover over them with the mouse or cursor. So let's change the background color to a sort of light gray with the hex value DDD, and then we'll change the color of the actual text to black, which is the hex value 000. So now if we hover, there we have the light gray shade and the black text. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. So now we can drop down to our different columns next, starting with our left column, which is the first one as we work down our page here. So we have an ID. So with a div ID for our left column, we'll want to use a hashtag to reference that. So always remember, hashtag for the ID and a period for a class when we're styling it with CSS. So we'll say hashtag left column, and then let's say float to the left, so it pushes to the left of the screen, and then width 70%. So now if we refresh, we have our images kind of overflowing outside of that 70%, but if you look at the text, it's lining up nicely at the 70% mark. So let's move over to our right column next. So we'll want to reference that again with a hashtag since it's an ID. So we'll say hashtag right column. And since we're using the border box, we'll also tell this to float to the left to push up next to our left column. And then we'll give it a width of 30%. And we'll give it a padding left of 20 pixels to give the gray shading in between our right and left columns as you see here. Okay, so now if we refresh, there we have it, except for we haven't styled the cards yet. So we're going to give it a white background when we do the cards. So let's go ahead and move on to that. Then we can see the border. Okay, so we'll reference that with a period since it's a class. So .card. And then let's change the background color to white from the F1 color that we're seeing. And then let's give it a padding of 20 pixels all around and a margin top of 20 pixels to separate it from the navigation and create a little bit of a bar there. Okay, so that's looking pretty good with the white background for our cards, and then we have the gray separating the left and right columns, but our images are too big, so let's change them. We'll want to reference the IMG tag for images, so we'll just say IMG, and let's give them a max width of 100% so they stay within their relative columns. Okay, and that looks pretty good, but if we check the original, I think they have some padding also off to the sides. So we'll give them a padding all around of 10 pixels. And now let's go and refresh. Okay, and now there we have it with the padding, and it's looking just like the original until we get down to this design picture. So we'll want to have that off to the right of our paragraph text. Now if you remember in the HTML, we laid out a special class just for that picture right here, where it says image-right. So let's go ahead and style that with period image/right, open and close your brackets, and we're going to say float right, and then max height 220 pixels, so it doesn't display at its full size. Okay, and then the original has a little bit of margin to the left of it there to separate it from the text so it doesn't get too close. So let's say margin dash left 15 pixels. Okay, so now if we refresh, there we have it looking just like the original. Okay, so everything's looking like it's in pretty good order. The next thing though down the page that we see that's out of line is going to be our icons here, which are displaying much larger than the originals. Okay, so let's go over to the HTML and check out the class that we used for our icons. Okay, so we have our links wrapped with a class that just says icons, and then we have the images inside of the links. So we'll say .icons img to target the icon images, and let's give them a width of 50 pixels, which will also automatically give it a height of 50 pixels, but they're a little too small here, so we'll want to change the padding to these images. So we'll say padding 5 pixels, which will bring it down from 10 pixels for the default image padding, and that will leave more room for the size of our actual icon images. Okay, so that looks good and just like the original until we get down to the footer. But one thing that we'll notice with the footer is that the contact me text is sort of appearing off to the right of the left column section. So what we'll want to do is we'll want to create sort of an invisible horizontal line to make it so nothing appears parallel to the row ID. So we'll say hashtag row after to create an invisible horizontal line after the row ID. So we'll say content blank display table and clear both. So we're going to say that nothing can display directly after this. So that's going to shift the contact me text down to the bottom left, and we're ready to lay out our footer section now. So we'll go ahead and we'll style the actual footer tag here. So we'll just write footer, and then let's give it its background color. So it's a background color 474747, which is sort of a dark gray shade, and then we'll make the actual color of the text white with the hex value FFF. So that's looking pretty good. And then let's center our text. So we'll say text align center. Okay, and then let's add some padding to it so the text isn't all the way up to the top and bottom of our footer section. So padding 20 pixels all around. Okay, and then we want to create some separation in between the actual footer and the columns above it. So we'll say margin top 20 pixels, and then we'll be able to see that light gray shade in between the dark footer and the white of the left column above it. And then lastly, let's change the email link here. So we'll say footer A for the link, and then let's change the color to white. Okay, and then if you want, you can get rid of the underline here to keep it the same as the original with text decoration none. Alright, great. So now if we refresh, we have it looking just like the original full width version of the website, but if we flex it down, we're going to find that the columns are still going to stay at their relative widths at 70% for the left column and 30% for the right column. So we'll want to move down to our first media query where it says anything under 768 pixel width, we want to apply this style. So let's go ahead and reference our left and right columns, and instead of having them at 30% and 70%, we're going to change them to have a width of 100%. So we'll just say width, or sorry, we'll just reference the div IDs first, left column and right column, and then we'll just say width 100%. Okay, so now if we come over to Google Chrome and refresh, we have anything under 768 pixels here displaying as one column rather than two column. So it looks good until we get down to the right column section because we have 20 pixels of padding off to the left. So we'll just say padding 0, and then if we refresh, it's going to match up to the left column section above it. Okay, so that looks good until we flex it down a little bit more and we find that our navigation items are going to start to display on top of one another here. So we want to style them a little differently to get them looking like the original. So basically what we're saying here is anything under 576 pixels, we want our navigation items to display at full width. So we want to take away the float left. So we're going to say float none for our navigation links. So nav a float none, and then if you want, you can go ahead and center the links by simply saying text align center. Okay, so now if we go ahead and refresh, there we have them aligned to the center, looking just like the mobile version of the original HTML website. Okay, so that does it. I want to thank you for sticking around with me through this tutorial. Please remember to like this video, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. Also, if you need help uploading your website to Bluehost, email me at help@macintuts.com. Thanks for watching.